Welcome to the Health Accomplice podcast. I'm your host, Alex, a functional nutrition guide and health enthusiast. As the Health Accomplice, I recognize our individuality and I honor your uniqueness. My mission is to help bridge the gap between all the credible information that's out there, and there's a lot, on diet, healthy lifestyle, and overall wellness, and your individuality. There is nobody like you. Let's work together to explore that as it relates to health and well-being and find out what works for each one of us so we can all live our happiest and healthiest lives. I'll be interviewing experts on topics like sleep, meditation, fasting, specific diets, psychology, and more. I'll always aim to make these topics as fun and interesting as possible so we can learn practical tips on how to apply these concepts in our everyday lives. So welcome to the podcast. I am so happy you're here. Hi guys, I have not recorded an episode in a while and I've missed you. I'm so happy to be here again. Life was just a little crazy in honestly the best way possible. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here today recording this solo episode, is to tell you about my experience in December, specifically with Dr. Joe Dispenza's retreat in Mexico that I went on last month. So one, I have been on a journey. It's definitely been a journey. I think, one of the reasons why I started the Health Accomplice and why I'm so passionate about health and wellness is because I've been on this journey for a very long time. And I think I've shared bits and pieces of my health journey, but not gone into too much detail. And I wanted to take this time and take this episode to share some more detail because it gives great context into how and why I got into the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza and why I love it so much and how that's become like the next chapter of this health and wellness journey where, it typically for a lot of people starts with food and taking care of their physical bodies, and then we get into the mind-body connection and the emotional and spiritual part of it, which is where I'm at and happy to be at today. So what can you expect from this episode? Like I said, I give you a little bit more context as to my own health journey, dive a little bit deeper into how I got to be involved in Dr. Joe's work and how I just explored my own mind-body connection. And then we dive deeper into who Dr. Joe Dispenza is, what his work is all about, and my biggest takeaway from his work and from doing his meditations, and a little bit about just the retreat as well for those of you who are curious about his work. So without further ado, I won't keep rambling on, just let's get right into it, and I will see you on the other side. Okay, so before we get started, I wanted to give you a quick intro to Dr. Joe Dispenza if you aren't already familiar with him. He is a New York Times best-selling author. He wrote You Are the Placebo and Becoming Supernatural. He hosts meditation retreats around the world where he guides people to find their own power within and heal themselves because of his own experience in healing himself through his study of quantum physics and energetics. He actually got into a really bad accident. I don't know how many years ago now, but obviously this is when he got into his work. He was a doctor beforehand and decided, instead of opting in for surgery after he fractured his spine and essentially became paralyzed, he used the concept of energetics and quantum physics and meditation to rebuild his body. And that sounds a little out there, but if you've read his books, You Are the Placebo and Becoming Supernatural, you would begin to understand. And when you go to his retreats, you begin to understand a little bit more. This stuff may sound a little witchy and woo-woo, but it's based on actual science. So I encourage you to keep an open mind. So now that you know a little bit about Joe Dispenza, I thought it would be a really good idea to give you my journey as to how I even got here and how I got to be interested in his work. And I know I've probably shared bits and pieces about my health journey in the past on Instagram if you follow me, or on the podcast episodes, but I don't know if I've ever gone deep into it. And I will share a little bit more on this episode because I feel like it's helpful context. And anyone's health journey, they'll tell you this, is never linear. So it's really hard to put together a concrete timeline. But I will do my best to give you guys a high-level overview as it relates to where I am today. And I will start as early as high school because I think that's the most relevant experience. So when I was in high school, as most teenagers do, I was experiencing hormonal imbalances. Now, the thing that everyone will tell you is that, oh, these are totally normal. I even just said it, as most teenagers do. All teenagers get acne and are angsty and have anxiety and all the things, and that's totally normal. And while I appreciate that view because it does help in not making you feel alone, knowing this does not really help the problem when you're in it. It helps for a second knowing that you're not alone and that, other teenagers are experiencing this. But truly, if you have acne on your face, you just don't want to be seen. You don't want to go to school. You're angsty about it, etc. And I think one of the biggest mistakes I made and we make as a society is taking these symptoms like anxiety, angst, like mental health issues, acne, painful periods. A lot of girls experience these hormonal issues, whether they're painful periods or skin. Men experience the same thing. Boys experience the same thing. And I think that we make the mistake of stamping them as normal and then, presenting pills and big pharma to take to make it all okay and to make it go away. And that's really what happened to me. I was told this is normal, this is fine, and what we do for this is give girls birth control. And so without a thought, without any research, without any consideration, without the question of, well, why do I have acne in the first place? Could there be a hormonal imbalance that we could fix with other things like food? Or is there something in my life that's causing me anxiety? Nope, nobody thought of that. The simple thing was you go to a dermatologist and you get prescribed birth control. And that is it. I won't go too deep into the whole birth control issue and how that caused a lot of my health issues because I did a separate podcast episode with my friend Jillian Guerin on how to get off birth control, but the episode also covers potential side effects. So if you're on it right now, or if you have a daughter who is thinking about going on it, I highly encourage you to listen to that episode because it does cover a lot of nuances as far as hormonal imbalances go. Another great resource is Alyssa Vitti, Flow Living. That really changed my life. So anyway, I know that birth control played a big role in other health issues. So when I started taking this, I experienced a lot of other things like, chronic fatigue, food allergies, hair loss, stomach issues. Luckily, the symptoms were always kind of mild, just enough to make me uncomfortable, but not enough to where anybody else would notice. But that also caused me a lot of anxiety, right? Because I was living my life trying to hide these symptoms as best as I could, trying to hide that I was tired. So I would drink shots of espresso. I would, if I had food allergies, I would just take pills or not eat, or it was just, it didn't really foster a very healthy relationship with my body because I didn't want anyone to notice these things that were happening. So now all these symptoms led me on a health journey and had me see a ton of doctors, lots of specialists, endocrinologists, dermatologists, the best doctors I could find. I did all the research. I paid out of pocket. A lot of them didn't take insurance. I was really in the Western medical system. And unfortunately, I have to say, for what I was experiencing specifically, I know that Western medicine is beautiful for a lot of things. If I'm going to, if I'm in an accident and I break my arm, it's wonderful. Emergency care, totally great. I've had my head split open before. Very grateful for the plastic surgeon who stitched up my face. But regardless, my point is, when it came to these issues, the Western medical system absolutely failed me in a big way. And I'd like to, call out that there are really great doctors out there. When you find a great doctor, your whole life can change, but it's a very rare occasion. And what I mean by a good doctor is someone that takes the time to get to know you, to problem solve with you, an accomplice, if you will, which is why I named this brand the Health Accomplice. You don't need a savior, because the lesson of this life is to realize your own power. You don't need somebody to save you, but you need a great partner in the system. And I was very, very lucky to find 3 great partners outside of the traditional Western medical system. I found an acupuncturist, a nutritionist, and a naturopath that really changed my life. And if anybody wants to work with them, because they are literally incredible human beings and great at what they do, their names are Karen Duggan, she is the nutritionist, April Blake, naturopath, and Trey McLaughlin, who is my acupuncturist, or former acupuncturist. I don't live in the Bay Area anymore. Anyway, without going down a rabbit hole into my entire Western medicine experience, I will share one story that highlights the entire experience in a nutshell. And this isn't an episode on hating on the Western system. Truly, it's not. It's really trying to remind you and remind myself that we have so much power. And I want to empower everyone to take control over their own health. And that's a lot of what Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about too. So I think, again, as a gateway to how I discovered his work and all about the retreat that I went on in Mexico, this story I thought was important to share because, again, it highlights the need for us to consider other things and consider not giving our power away, even when it comes to our health and wellness, and remind us that we have everything we need in our bodies already. So anyway, the story real quick on just highlighting how the system let me down. So anyway, eventually I did go off birth control after realizing that it was depleting my body of nutrients and masking my systems. And I really wanted to develop a relationship with my body. So I went off birth control, and it didn't come without side effects. There were side effects that I ended up mitigating, but regardless, there was a side effect of acne again on my neck, because if you went on birth control to mask a symptom, it's going to come back when you go off of it. Birth control is not a cure. Pharma is not a cure. It's a mask. It's totally a mask. And so understanding the symptoms and the root cause of them is really important. So anyway, when I went off birth control, I developed some acne again, and I went to the dermatologist. I won't mention who, but it's not my current dermatologist, because I love my current dermatologist, but this was another one. And I asked for a natural solution, to which this derm scoffed at me. And he told me, I'm going to give you spironolactone or Accutane. I wouldn't recommend Accutane because it's not bad enough for Accutane. And Accutane has so many side effects, including, the mental health issues that come up, like people get suicidal, etc. Like, how is that okay? But anyway, it's a whole other tangent. So he really pushed spironolactone on me. I kept asking for a natural solution. He definitely wasn't listening to me. He couldn't give me an answer on how to solve for this acne. All he wanted to do was write me a prescription. So he did. I never filled it. Instead, I went home and I was determined to figure out how to heal this acne naturally. And I found Alyssa Vitti's Flow Living Protocol. And I did this protocol for 3 months. I took the course, and holy shit, it changed my body. It literally changed my perspective on my body. It made me understand my hormones, how they worked. It made me understand what my period even is and how my hormones fluctuate day to day, week to week. It was a wonderful program, and needless to say, my skin was phenomenal after doing this for 3 months. I ended up having to go back to this dermatologist to check on a mole because I love the sun. I'm sorry, my current dermatologist will kill me for this, but I do love the sun. I love sitting in the sun. So yes, I sometimes will get worried about a mole or two here. Regardless, it was totally fine. He checked on the mole. The whole point of the story is when I went back to his office, he walks in with his clipboard, reading the notes from our previous meeting, and looked up at me and said, "Oh my God, your skin looks amazing. That spironolactone worked." And I said, "Actually, I never filled the prescription. I did this with food. I used food as medicine. specifically an Ayurvedic approach by this woman, Alyssa Beatty, and that's what helped my skin. And this doctor was mad at me. He was mad at me for healing. His job is to heal me, and he was mad at me for healing naturally without his big pharma pills. He literally just rolled his eyes and left the room. I could not believe what was happening. I was literally like, I just was so taken aback by the fact that he was mad at me for healing. And I was so disappointed in the system at that very moment. I was like, there's definitely something wrong here. I could not believe that he rolled his eyes and just left versus being curious and happy that I healed, because that's what he's there for, isn't he? Well, I mean, that's the naive part of me, right? Regardless, he left the room. His assistant came back in, and she was so cute. She leaned over to me and whispered, like, how did you do it? What is this Alyssa Beatty protocol, flow living? What is it? And I told her all about it, and I hoped that she would tell her other patients about it so that they wouldn't have to go on Accutane and experience these side effects and potentially go down a very, very dark place. So anyway, that was my one story and experience with the Western medical system as it relates to anything chronic. And, essentially my example and my point in telling you this is to really empower you and to let you know that your body can heal and it doesn't need big pharma to heal. There are lots of beautiful ways to heal it with things like food. Okay, so let's actually talk about food, because using food as medicine is very powerful, and that's typically where people start. It's the best baseline for feeling good mentally, because if you're feeling uncomfortable, if you're feeling bloated, it's like very, very hard to meditate and feel like you're in a good mental space. It's doable, obviously. Everything is doable, and meditation actually will solve all those problems, but it isn't the easiest. And so a lot of people start with food, and that's where the journey started for me. It started with using food as medicine and seeing how many changes I can make in my life just by changing my diet. And it was insane. This episode is not about that though, but I will say, if you were looking at what you're putting in your body, it does matter, and the energetics of food matters too, where it comes from, how it's grown, etc., how it's made, all of those things. General rule is obviously eat real food, don't eat processed food, but the point is food was my starting point, and I noticed a big connection between my mind and my body. Eventually, right? So you make the changes with food and you feel a whole lot better, and then you just want to keep going. And I just wanted to keep going. I'm like, wow, I feel amazing. How much better can I feel? And then I started realizing that my diet was actually pretty freaking perfect. Like I was eating all the right things, all the anti-inflammatory foods, and I was still having some symptoms. And it was because of my thoughts and my anxiety. So you could be eating, you could literally be eating something that's so good for your body, and you know that your body loves, and it's healthy, it's nutritious, and it's good. But if you're eating it while you're stressed about a meeting that you have, or if you're upset about a conversation you just had, that anxiety is going to lead to poor digestion. It's going to lead to bloating. It's going to have a lot of physiological effects on you as well. So yes, food matters. Yes, what you're putting into your body matters, but the mind-body connection is real. I think a big example for me is, I don't know if anyone listening has ever experienced this, but I think 99.9% of humans have. When you are nervous, let's say you have to speak in front of 500 people, or you have to have a difficult conversation with somebody, and you get super red, or your hands shake, or you have to run to the bathroom. That is a physical impact of just thoughts. imagine there's nothing causing you to be red, there's nothing causing you to shake, and there's nothing causing you to go to the bathroom other than your thoughts. So the mind-body connection is incredibly real, and this is something Dr. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about. I can't remember the first time I heard of Dr. Joe's name because I listened to so many health and wellness podcasts, but I do remember the first episode that I heard with him on it that blew my mind. And I remember sending it to all my friends, and I was like, you have to listen to this episode. It's amazing. This guy's amazing. It was the Goop episode where Gwyneth interviewed him, and it was incredible. I highly encourage you to listen to that episode if you're interested in Dr. Joe Dispenza after listening to this episode. But going back to the mind-body connection, because I think it's a really important point. So we've clearly seen how your thoughts can impact physical. They have physical manifestations in your body. Your face turns red if somebody says something to you. That's literally based on a thought. There's no physical thing. You didn't just take a pill. You didn't eat something you're allergic to. It's just based on your thoughts that your face is turning red. There's a true, real connection between your thoughts and your physical state. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about this in his online intensive course, which I took before going on the retreat. So just backtracking a little bit, I first heard about him 2 years ago, and I tried his meditations, but to be honest, I didn't love his meditations as much as I loved the To Be Magnetic work and Lacey Phillips' meditations and the work that she does. They really helped prime me for his work as well. It's all very similar and related. The concept is diving into a deeper state of subconscious and rewiring your brain, because our thoughts do impact our lives, and those thoughts are really important. And a lot of times our thoughts are coming from our subconscious. So both To Be Magnetic, Lacey Phillips, and Dr. Joe Dispenza believe in our power and our ability to rewire our subconscious thoughts and reshape our conscious thoughts and reshape our reality based on those two things. So anyway, during the intensive online course, Dr. Joe made some points that I thought were really incredible. So I'm going to repeat them here. We think about 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day. Insane. That's an insane amount. 90% of those thoughts are actually the same thoughts you had the day prior. You were thinking the same thing today as you thought the day before, as you thought the day before, as you thought the day before. These thoughts create the same behaviors. So you're behaving the same way every day because you're thinking the same way every day. And your behaviors drive your personality. So this was a little bit mind-blowing for me and a little bit hard to digest, because I grew up thinking, and I've spent my whole life thinking, that my personality is who I am. It's my essence. It's just my being, and it's unique, and it's me, and my personality is what makes me Alex. And what's really not true, or now I don't believe that that's true, and this might be a little bit of a hard concept for people to grab, because we are so attached to our personalities and our identities. But our personalities and identities are really the result of programming, our childhood programming. So if you grew up in a particular culture, if you grew up in Sweden, you would grow up with one kind of programming, versus if you grew up in Brazil or in China, you would grow up with another type of personality. So your personality, which is your personal reality, it makes up your personal reality, really is based on the thoughts that you think. And if the thoughts that you think are creating your personality, and the thoughts that you think are really coming from your subconscious, and that subconscious was really molded by your upbringing, your environment, your culture, your programming, what was put out there by your parents, by your caretakers, by your friends, by the media that you consumed, by the books that you read, the people that you surround yourself with, that all creates your personality. It all creates your personal reality, creates your thoughts. It has a big impact on your thoughts. Now, so many people are attached to this. I was attached to this idea, like, that doesn't make any sense. Then who am I? If I'm not my personality, now I'm getting a little deep here and a little intense, which, I mean, that's maybe I think that's just my soul essence. Who are you is your soul essence. It is when you strip down the programming from your childhood, from your environment, from society, all of that, when you strip all of that down, you have something called your essence, your soul, what your soul desires, what your soul wants. It's your true, authentic self. And you can be anybody you want to be. If you're living a life that is inauthentic to you and you really want to be, a skier, or if you're a lawyer and you really want to be an artist, or if you're working for a big, corporation, but you really want to own like a small coffee truck or food truck, whatever that is likely your soul's essence. And the reason why you're working for a big corporation, or the reason why you're a lawyer, is because that's based on your programming and your personality and your thoughts and all of that. So needless to say, the biggest takeaway and the biggest thing that I feel like I've struggled with, and that a lot of people might struggle with Dr. Joe's work, is the idea of letting go of your identity if there are parts of your life that aren't making you happy. Letting go, if there is something, okay, let me rephrase that. Not parts of your life that are making you happy, but if there's something that you want to change, if there's something, if you're experiencing a health issue, that health issue, I truly believe there's a psychological component to every single ailment that we face. And that health issue is probably tied to you abandoning yourself in some way. When we get down to the core energetics of a lot of health issues, it all comes down to us abandoning ourselves in some way, masking our true soul desire for the sake of our personal identity, the identity that we've built. And we think we're stuck with that identity, and we think we're stuck with that personality. But the truth is, you can really be anyone you want to be. If there is an aspect of your life right now, and it doesn't have to be your whole life, it could be your career, it could be your health, it could be something so simple as, I want to be somebody that speaks up more at work, but that's just not my personality. I am like the quiet one. That's not true. If you want to be somebody that speaks up at work, then you can be. If that's truly what your heart and your soul desires, then you can get rid of the programming that created this quiet persona. There must be some subconscious belief underneath it all. Maybe you were programmed to be quiet because that's how women are supposed to be. This is just an example. Maybe somebody in your life told you, women are not supposed to be loud, they're supposed to be quiet. So, or a particular type of woman is supposed to be quiet and not loud. Then, that's subconscious programming that's creating your thoughts, and your thoughts are creating your behaviors, and your behaviors are creating your personality, and your personality is creating your personal reality. And it all is a cycle, and it feeds into one another. And so you will be, this will be reinforced, and you will continue living in this inauthenticity when really you don't want to be quiet. You want to be more assertive, or you want to speak up more. Well, the work of Joe Dispenza allows you to let go of your personality, let go of your identity, or that part of your identity. Again, it doesn't have to be your whole self. We don't have to go to extremes and completely, become a different person, although you can if you want to be. But let go of that aspect and become someone else. Become whoever it is you want to be, because it is truly our birthright to have everything that we desire and to be who we want to be. This is our time to be authentic. I mean, we're living in such crazy times right now, and you'd think that this wasn't the time to be authentic given cancel culture, but I think more than ever, we are given the support and given the tools that we need to build the life that we want and to become anybody we want to be. And if there are aspects of our personalities or identities that we want to change, we can feel safe to do that. So anyway, that was the biggest takeaway for me in preparing for the week-long retreat in Mexico. And originally I did want to share a lot about my experience going to the retreat, but I'm going to hold off on that because the beauty of those retreats is to go into the unknown and the unexpected. So I don't really want to share that with you. And that's not to say I'm keeping something from you. It's to honor your experience. If you do want to go, I do want to make sure that I honor Dr. Joe's work. And part of the beauty is going into something very unexpected. So anyway, his work is all about, rewiring your brain to become whoever it is that you'd want to be. And he does this through a series of meditations that are really, really powerful and really beautiful. It's first becoming nobody, no thing, no one, nowhere, no space, no time. And you kind of almost shed every identity that you have, every tie to anything, every attachment, and you go into this void of nothingness. It's like the Matrix. You go into the Matrix, you go into the void where there's nothing, and then you start building the code on your own. And then you begin to build the life that you want. You tap into the feelings that you want to feel, tap into the things that you want, and you start seeing how magical life can get, and you start experiencing synchronicities in your life. There's a lot more to it than that. It does get super spiritual, but the spiritual side of it is all about tapping into the oneness of the worlds, realizing that we are not separate. We are part of everything that exists on this planet. Gabby Bernstein actually writes about this in her book, Judgment Detox, which is also a really great resource for anybody experiencing the feeling of separation. We are not separate. Everyone that we experience in this world, whether they're triggering us, whether they're our worst enemy, whether they're our best friend, they are us and we are them. And that may be a hard concept to wrap your head around, but we are all one. The very first podcast episode I did was with Theo Burkhart, where he talks about transcendental meditation and how it cured his insomnia. And when I first recorded that episode in 2020, can't believe that was now 2 years ago, I understood the concept. He actually explained it nicely using the analogy of a wave and an ocean. We are the waves. As human beings, we are these individual, unique waves. No wave is the same. We are the waves, but we are all part of a whole, and we're all part of the ocean. And when you go into transcendental meditation, you're no longer the wave. You become the ocean. You become one with everything around you, and it's a state of bliss. And Joe Dispenza's meditations are very similar, where he guides you on an experience where you experience oneness with the world, with everything around you. Now, that may sound really out there, spiritual, woo-woo, whatever. There is a scientific explanation for this using the study of frequency and quantum physics. So the way Joe does this is through getting your brain into a gamma brainwave state. And this frequency is a very, very high frequency, and it begins to take you to a state of euphoria. And it does have incredible effects on your physiology. And what happens here is the production of your, immune cells goes up. You're doing way more than that when you're in these deep states of meditation. And when I talk about deep states, I mean, it's not enough to just sit there and do like 5 minutes of headspace. Typically, it requires an hour. And I know that sounds like a lot, but it takes an hour for your body to get there because your body's going to fight it. Your body's going to fight that present moment for a good like half hour, 45 minutes. And you finally get there and you want to experience that like 15 minutes of like complete brain orgasm. So these meditations that he creates are meant to be a little bit longer because, like I said, it takes a while to get there. But once you get there, you get to a gamma brain wave state. And it's the highest frequency that you can experience. And it does have incredible physiological benefits to your body. Not only does it relax you and give you the rejuvenation that's equivalent to like 2 or 3 hours of sleep. I think at the retreat there was a guy with an aura ring, and we meditated for an hour or so, and then I think the aura ring had thought I don't have it yet. I actually just ordered it, but there were some metrics that it gave him where it literally thought he was resting for a much longer period of time, and it was like the equivalent of 2 to 3 hours of sleep. So it's pretty powerful. The positive impact it has on your serotonin production, just lifting your mood, alleviating anxiety. It also helps produce proteins around your cells that definitely give you a really beautiful immune response to colds and flus and all of that, and just like boosts your immunity. I mean, there's so many benefits to meditation that are more than just calming your mind. It is really changing the physiology of your body and can lead to a lot of healing. There's been a lot of miracles that happen on the Joe Dispenza retreats. I witnessed some of them personally. Again, I will honor the experience by not sharing them, but Joe Dispenza does have a lot of YouTube videos on people who share their testimonials and their experiences. Lots of people with cancer, people with ALS, Parkinson's disease, people who were blind and had regained their vision at his retreats. It's not made up stuff. I thought it would be maybe, but I went and personally witnessed these things for myself, and it's really, really incredible. So anyway, the thing that I really wanted to share with this work that I've been doing and finally getting to a place where, like I said, food is a gateway. It gives you a really great baseline to feel good in your body. But ultimately, if you keep going, you'll start getting deeper and going deeper, and you'll start opening the doors into finding your soul's purpose and why we're all here. And you eventually get to a place where you realize how strong the mind-body connection is and how strong the soul-mind connection is, and how big of a role that plays in your happiness here and finding joy here. And then you begin to explore that a little bit more. And, for me, again, that was getting into food, but also diving deeper into spirituality through, Gabby Bernstein's work. And then I moved on to Eckhart Tolle and Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay, and eventually got to a place with the To Be Magnetic work by Lacey, which I think is incredible, and then Joe Dispenza. And now I'm here, and it's been such an incredible ride, and I can't tell you the amount of peace I feel in my heart, and I'm a completely different person, and I continue to grow and learn. And the biggest thing for me is that I don't know how to say this, but almost like I'm just so happy to be here in the present moment, and I finally reached a place in my life where I can be present, because it was really hard before. I had tons of anxiety and I was never able to like fully pay attention. I was, half here, half there, and now I'm completely present in the moment, and that's where the magic is. And again, Dr. Joe focuses a lot on being in the present moment, and his meditations really help you get there, and it's incredible, and it is so rewarding. And so I highly recommend anyone who's interested in this work, or if after listening to this episode you feel compelled to check him out, I would start with the Goop episode that he's on. For all the guys out there, Lewis Howes has a really great episode with Dr. Joe, and so does Dr. Mark Hyman. It's pretty recent as well. I would also start by reading Becoming Supernatural. You can get the book or you can get the audiobook. And then he has his intensive online progressive courses that I would do after reading the book and listening to some of the podcasts. And then, of course, highly recommend going on one of his retreats. I will likely go on a second one this year because I loved it so much. And I know he releases those dates if you sign up for his email list. They sell out pretty quickly. The retreats literally sell out in 10 minutes. So you kind of have to be on the lookout for when the tickets go on sale, and then set an alarm and get on your computer and buy them. So yeah, I hope this was helpful, insightful, and I will see you on the next one. Hopefully it won't be too long before I record another episode, because I really miss recording these and talking to you guys. If you liked this episode, please rate and review on Apple iTunes. It helps other people discover this content, and it just means a lot to me. So thank you. Have a beautiful start to the new year. Bye.